Alright, let's take a look at this. One of the most brutal punishments in NBA history didn't come from a brawl, a drug test, or a gambling ring. Nope, it came from a stack of secret papers stuffed in a drawer, contracts that weren't supposed to exist, a promise made to Joe Smith that blew up the Minnesota Timberwolves' future. Yeah, this is a Joe Smith scandal, and it still matters today because the Kawhi Leonard situation might just be deja vu all over again. Welcome to Overtime Sessions. Let's break this down. Joe Smith was born on July 26, 1975 in Norfolk, Virginia. In high school, the guy was a walking double-double, crushing local competition. By the time he hit Maryland, he wasn't just good, he was the guy. In 2 years, he was ACC Rookie of the Year, ACC Player of the Year, consensus All-American, and let's not forget the iconic 40-point, 20-rebound game at Duke. His averages, over 20 and 10, with nearly 3 blocks a game. The Golden State Warriors drafted him number 1 overall in 1995, picturing him as the new face of the franchise. Whispers floated about contracts worth up to $80 million, but Smith later admitted the real offers were in the $50 to $60 million range. Still life-changing money, but here's the twist. Smith felt undervalued. He gambled on himself, and it didn't work. He was good, but not great. After a trade to Philly, his stock slid. By 1998, he was in Minnesota, looking for a reset. Now, for the Timberwolves in the late 1990s, the Wolves, they finally were on the map. Kevin Garnett was their crown jewel. In 1997, he signed a 6-year, $126 million deal, the richest contract in sports at the time. The number made owners around the league panic. Even Marbury, KG's running mate, bailed in 99, so it was Garnett alone, and a front office ran by Kevin McHale scrambling for help. Joe Smith looked like the perfect fit, but instead of just signing him, they cooked up a scheme that would haunt them for decades. But let's pause for context. There was a lockout in 98, and it lasted for 204 days, and it was pure chaos. The All-Star Game, canceled. The season, chopped to 50 games, and the fans, furious. Why? Because owners were losing their minds over mega contracts like Garnett's. That $126 million deal was so big, it was literally more than what Glenn Taylor paid for the entire Timberwolves franchise. Owners demanded rookie scales, max contracts, and tighter spending rules. Players fought back, but in the end, the owners got what they wanted. Max contracts were born, rookie deals were capped, and bird rights became even more important for small market teams. And the Wolves, they saw bird rights as their golden ticket. So let's get into the scheme with Joe Smith. And here's the play. Smith would sign 1-year below market deals, basically discount contracts, and after 3 of them, Minnesota would cash in and use his bird rights to give him a monster around $86 and $93 million payday. Smart? Sure. Legal? Absolutely not. And the dumbest part about it, they put it all in writing. A paper trail. Big mistake. And so what are bird rights? I'll give you a quick breakdown. Bird rights lets team go over the salary cap to re-sign their own guys. For full bird rights, after 3 years, re-sign for 5 years, bigger raises. Early bird rights, 2 years in, partial raises. Non-bird, after 1 year, tiny bumps. For the Wolves, bird rights were the only way to keep Smith without gutting their roster. But you gotta pay by the rules, and they didn't. Now this is where it gets juicy. Here enter the agents. Joe Smith started with Eric Fleisher, son of MBPA founder Larry Fleisher. Eric was an old-school, hard-nosed agent. And then comes Andrew Miller, once Fleisher's intern, later his protege. And by the 90s, Miller was Fleisher's right-hand man. Then he stabbed him in the back. Miller secretly poached clients, including Garnett, Marbury, and Joe Smith, while still working under Fleisher. In 1999, Miller left, taking 16 of Fleisher's biggest names with him. Fleisher sued for $14 million, and in that lawsuit, the Wolves' secret Joe Smith contracts were uncovered. Boom. Scandal exposed. By 2002, Fleisher actually won a $4.6 million judgment against Miller, but for Minnesota, the damage was done. And now enter Kenneth Dam, a respected arbitrator. He reviewed the evidence and confirmed the Wolves had at least 5 illegal contracts with Smith. It wasn't rumor anymore, it was fact, and that gave Commissioner David Stern the green light to lower the hammer. On October 25, 2000, Stern drops one of the harshest punishments in league history. A $3.5 million fine, 5 first-round picks stripped from 2001 and 2005, Joe Smith's contracts voided, Glenn Taylor was suspended till August 2001, and Kevin McHale on unpaid leave till July 2001. Later, the Wolves got back their 2003 and 2005 picks, but losing 2001, 2002, and 2004 was a death blow. The fallout of this, the aftermath, brutal. Joe Smith never saw that big payday. He went to Detroit for 1 year, came back to Minnesota for a much smaller 6-year, $34 million deal. His name forever tied to the scandal. For Kevin Garnett, he lost his prime years with no help. No draft picks meant no depth. The Wolves peaked in 2004 with a trip to the Western Conference Finals and then faded fast. And the Wolves as a franchise, scarred. Fans still point to this as the reason KG never won a ring in Minnesota. So now let's talk today. Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers are under the microscope. Allegations suggest Leonard's camp may have gotten perks or promises outside the official rules, and it sounds a lot like Joe Smith. On September 3rd, 2025, sports journalist Pablo Torre released an explosive 80-minute podcast episode on Pablo Torre Finds Out, detailing allegations on salary cap circumvention involving Leonard and the Clippers. The key allegations included Leonard received $21 million and was still owed $7 million from a company called Aspiration Partners through his LLC, KL2 Aspire. The arrangement was described as a no-show job requiring minimal effort from Leonard. A former Aspiration Finance employee stated that they were told the deal was designated to circumvent the salary cap. The contract contained a clause that would terminate if Leonard played for another team or retired. Aspiration Partners was a San Francisco-based environmental startup that filed for bankruptcy in 2025. Steve Ballmer invested $50 million in Aspiration in 2021. The Clippers announced a $300 million partnership with Aspiration in September 2021. Joseph Sandberg, who is Aspiration's co-founder, pleaded guilty to wire fraud charges in August of 2025, having defrauded investors of $248 million. The company was described as a tree planting startup focused on environmental sustainability. Now I'll go over the timelines of the events with you. So we go back to August 2021. Leonard signed a 4-year, $176 million contract extension with the Clippers. In September 2021, Clippers announced $300 million partnership with Aspiration. In November 2021, Aspiration allegedly approached the Clippers for an introduction to Leonard. In 2022, the alleged $28 million endorsement contract between Leonard and Aspiration was executed. And by 2025, Aspiration filed for bankruptcy, listing KL2 Aspire LLC as a creditor owed $7 million. So let's look at the potential outcomes for Kawhi and the Clippers. Best case for them, nothing's concrete, Clippers get a slap on the wrist, Kawhi keeps hooping. The middle case, fines, maybe a few restrictions, but nothing catastrophic. For the worst case, proof comes out, Clippers lose draft picks, eat heavy fines, and people in the front office face suspensions. Basically a modern day replay of the Joe Smith scandal. The Joe Smith saga is a cautionary tale. A team tried to outsmart the system, and the system hit back harder than anyone expected. Now, the Kawhi Leonard case might test the NBA again. Will history repeat itself? We'll see. This is Overtime Sessions. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Kawhi's situation could end up like Joe Smith's? Or is this just smoke with no fire? Let me know, and I'll see you next time in Overtime.